Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Johnson, Chief Education Officer at Carnegie Hall and Director of the Hall's Weill Music Institute, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this episode of Learn with Carnegie Hall. Since Carnegie Hall first established the National Youth Orchestra of the USA in 2013, the gathering together of hundreds of amazing teen musicians from around the country, first to train and make music in New York City, and then to share their artistry with audiences around the world, has become a much anticipated annual summer tradition for all of us. Today's program is a celebration of the Hall's three national youth ensembles: NYO-USA, NYO-2, our orchestra for younger teens, and NYO Jazz, which was started in 2018. During this episode, we'll enjoy music from past NYO tours and performances, hear a little about what our new group of young musicians will be up to this summer, and we'll speak with alumni from all three programs who will share how their NYO experiences have shaped who they are today. To start us off, I am very happy to introduce Sean Jones, our amazing artistic director and band leader for NYO Jazz, who's here to share more.
Thanks so much, Sarah. It's an honor to be here for another live stream with Carnegie Hall. Looking forward to this year's 2020 version of NYO Jazz. All right, just want to share a little bit of the news that we have coming up with the 2020 version of NYO Jazz. We're so excited to be playing some music from the pen of Thad Jones, Cherry Juice, which is an extremely difficult number, and his classic To You, along with a composition written specifically for NYO Jazz 2020 by John Beasley. So we look forward to presenting that to you. And now we'd like to present a composition that we performed in 2018, written by the great Billy Strayhorn. This is entitled Isfahan. Wow, that was Isfahan by the great Billy Strayhorn. And on lead alto on that number was Kevin Oliver, one of our fantastic 2018 NYO Jazz members. And he's here with us today. Let's give it up for him virtually. Kevin Oliver. Kevin, what's up, man?
Hey, Mr. Jones, how you doing?
I'm doing so well, man. How are you doing in these trying times?
Well, I'm doing as good as I can, just trying to stay busy and stay healthy, honestly.
I understand, my friend. So that was clearly very emotional for you. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that concert was like and what were you feeling? What were the emotions going on in your soul?
Yeah, definitely. That Berlin concert was definitely one of the most emotional concerts I've ever been a part of. Like while I was on stage playing, I just thought about how great of relationships I had developed over the month that we were together. I remember one moment from that concert where we were playing and Diane Reeves was singing and she took in a deep breath, was just like, I love you guys. And then that was the second to last tune. And then on the last tune, everybody was boo-hoo crying just because we were all feeling the feels. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. It was so magical. And it was an honor to stand in front of a band of that caliber, man, and just share all of that wonderful human emotion, man. So thank you. Kevin, it's been 2 years now. And as we can see, a lot can happen in a very short amount of time. Why don't you just give us a little bit of a heads up and a window into what your life has been like for the past 2 years?
For sure. Well, right after NYO, I started pursuing an undergraduate degree at the Juilliard School. So I've been learning a lot, playing in ensembles and things like that. Living in New York City, trying to meet some of the legends of this music, our ancestors, just meeting them, trying to sit in with them, and playing a few gigs along the way.
Awesome, man. That's wonderful. Well, I've heard through the grapevine that you're quite the comedian and you're kind of looking at doing some additional things with your music. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, when I play my own gigs and lead my own bands, I have a concept that I play music and do stand-up comedy. And part of this was just because I have a great interest in both of these things. But part of it was because I just saw so many similarities between the two. Both of them are concerned with phrasing, rhythm, interaction, space, composition. So I feel like a lot of the skills are transferable between the two. And I really love playing jazz music and I love comedy. So it was definitely something that was this is definitely me. This is definitely what I want to do.
That's fantastic, man. There definitely are some serious similarities there. All about timing, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for everything that you've been doing, that you did for us in 2018. And we look forward to many more years of fantastic music and comedy with you.
Definitely. No, thank you. I take those lessons that you taught us. I take them with me everywhere I go. So I appreciate you too. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. It was so fantastic speaking with Kevin Oliver and just talking a little bit about NYO Jazz and what's coming up and what we've been doing. Now check out NYO2 doing the Candide Overture. This happened in 2017. Check them out.
That last piece was Leonard Bernstein's Overture to Candide from NYO-2's debut at Carnegie Hall in 2017, led by Giancarlo Guerrera. Hello, I'm Joseph Young, resident conductor with the National Youth Orchestra at Carnegie Hall, and I'm so excited to be working with NYO-2 again this summer. Joining me today is a violist who was a part of the inaugural year of NYO-2 in 2016, Matthew Garcia. Welcome, Matthew.
Hi, Mr. Thank you for having me.
Matthew, can you tell us how you heard about NYO-2 and what was your experience like that first summer?
Sure. So I'd actually seen an advertisement for NYO in a program at Carnegie Hall when I was there the year before. And I had wanted to join the organization so much, but you had to be age 16. And I was really disappointed, but I figured I would just keep practicing and eventually one day I'd be able to apply. Then I was checking the website for some reason, and I discovered that the NYO-2 program had launched, which is ages 14 and up. I come from an area that is unfortunately very underinvested in terms of music education. So I never had the opportunity or access to get private lessons. I felt that these programs, at times, these very far away programs, were a little bit inaccessible to kids like me, but I realized that NYO-2 was specifically for and made exactly for people like me who don't have all the great resources and access to them in the education field. And so I decided to give it a shot and apply, and it started my NYO journey of quite a couple of years.
And so can you tell us how your first experience and that first year of NYO-2?
Sure. So NYO-2 was a year of many firsts and discoveries. It was my very first private lesson, the first time that I ever played chamber music, the first time that I had gotten to experience different cultures, different religions, different beliefs, different political ideologies. And it was truly the first time that I began to see myself in a light that was outside of the bounds of my home. I live in South Texas, which is a ethnically homogenous area of 95% Hispanic. And it really opened my eyes to the many opportunities that are available, whether in the arts or in other fields from the professionals that we got to interact with. And it truly inspired me to see where I could take my life outside of the bounds of where I lived.
That's great. From NYO-2, you moved on to join NYO-USA. Not 1 year, not 2 years, but 3 years. Can you tell us about that experience and your experience on tour with NYO-USA?
Sure. So I like to say NYO-2 was my discovery period, and NYO was my inspiration period. I had never left the country before we went on our first tour to Mexico, and from getting to see the incredible amount of cultures on 3 different continents, it truly opened my eyes to the extent of the beauty of the world and of the experience that you can see in it. And in getting to truly work with some of the best young musicians and conductors and composers and basically every music professional in the entire arts field, I got to see an inner confidence in myself. When I was interviewing with the BBC Proms, or on a radio station in Colombia, or talking to some delegates, I can't even remember in what country, I began to realize that I had a lot of power in my voice in sharing my story, and I also discovered a whole myriad of issues that exist in the music education field that in the future I would work to address.
So that's all very interesting, and I love to hear how NYO influenced you as a leader. And I know you're at Harvard right now, a sophomore, and I know that you started a program, an organization. Can you tell us about the creation of your organization through the staff?
Sure, Maestro. So Through the Staff is an organization that I'm incredibly passionate about. I founded it with 5 other NYO alumni, and it truly addresses one of the largest problems that we have in the music education field today, which is accessibility. So as we all know, music education is incredibly expensive, and if you don't live in a major US city and you're a young musician, the odds are that you don't have access to professional music ensembles, community music programs, or even consistent private lessons. And so for the millions of children across the United States, especially for young musicians of color who are disproportionately affected by these systemic inequities. If you can't afford or access these resources, then continuing your journey in music becomes exponentially so much harder. To the staff, we believe that these lifelong musical journeys are a right for every young musician, and we're working to knock down these systemic barriers in order to make it happen by providing free, virtual, private lessons.
I hope I can speak for the whole NYO family that we are so proud of what you have accomplished as a leader and how NYO has inspired you. So I want to thank you, Matthew, for joining me.
Thank you so much. And thank you to NYO for really giving me the tools and the, inner confidence to start this initiative when I never believed that it would be possible otherwise.
Amazing. Now, let's hear a little bit more from NYO2. This is from the most recent season of NYO2 in July 2019, recorded at the New World Center in Miami Beach. This is selections from Defia's Three-Cornered Hat.
And that was a large portion from the middle of Pictures at an Exhibition by Modest Mussorgsky, as performed by the National Youth Orchestra on the direction of David Robertson. I'm James Ross, and I'm very lucky to have been together with the National Youth Orchestra since their founding in 2013 as the orchestra director. And I'm very pleased today to introduce one of our stellar musicians, an oboist, who was with us in 2014, named Cassie Pilgrim. Welcome, Cassie.
Hi, Jem. It's so nice to see you.
So the performance that you were involved in right there was actually the first time that the National Youth Orchestra had the chance to play in Carnegie Hall. Even though we were founded the year before, the hall was in renovation in 2013. So it was a debut for the orchestra. I think it was a debut for many of you on stage as well. And also it was a great moment of pride for Carnegie to be able to feature on its main stage this orchestra that it had founded the year before. So I'm wondering, do you have any special memories of that concert, of what it was like to actually play on that great stage?
Yeah, it was amazing. I think every young musician always hears about Carnegie Hall or dreams about playing in Carnegie Hall. You know, it's such a landmark and kind of a milestone in many musicians' lives, just to be like, finally did it, check that off the list, Carnegie Hall. Certainly, I never thought that I could do that in such a setting with like all these other young musicians and sort of a landmark thing as well. First time NYO performing there, and the program was really kind of inspiring and awesome, as well as we're kicking off an American tour and to start at Carnegie Hall. So and each subsequent time I've been there for a couple times, I've really felt all the nostalgia and excitement that I first felt when we went there together. So I'll always take that with me and remember that as like the first time, my first experience at Carnegie Hall was with everyone at NYO.
Your path has continued on from your year at the National Youth Orchestra, and I'm wondering if you can just recount for us a little bit where that path has brought you to the place that you are now, which is as principal oboe of the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra.
Yeah, I guess like all things do, it sort of all happened so fast that you don't really know what's happening until it's all over, and then you look back, and that sort of happened to me. I think the last few years have been sort of a whirlwind, and now finally being settled down with my job, I can look back and really be grateful and feel a lot of excitement and nostalgia for all the steps along the way, NYO being one of them. I did NYO right before I started at college at the Curtis Institute of Music, and that was in 2014. And I actually went to school with several NYO members, whether they were in my year or the previous year or following years. So it was cool to sort of see that connection there. And I did that for 4 years. Then I did 1 year on campus at Oberlin Conservatory for my artist diploma. And that was last year, during which I took my audition and trial and got the job for St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. And technically I just graduated this year from Oberlin because it's a 2-year degree, and I sort of finished it off campus. And yeah, it's been a whirlwind. I can't believe it's been 6 years since so much has happened, so much has changed that I almost barely recognize that sort of bright-eyed, wide-eyed girl that showed up to purchase 6 years ago. But yeah, it's been really exciting.
I think that actually enthusiasm and being wide-eyed is almost a talent of a certain kind. It sort of presages success in whatever field you go into. Yeah, and it also creates a real sense of family, which is characterized National Youth Orchestra right from the start. I'm wondering if there's any one experience that happened to you when you were with us in 2014 that has ended up being really vital or kind of helpful for you on your path ever since then.
One big thing that I took away from it was, it's sort of a renewable energy source when I think back about just being in that experience with everyone, and everyone was so excited, sort of on the cusp of adulthood, or who knew what was to happen in the next few years, and that sort of energy and excitement made it so special what we were creating. And I think that you did such a great job of encouraging us to sort of own our voice and treat us with I think we all felt like we're adults and we had our own voice, and we were allowed to use it and express ourselves, and that's a very important thing to carry with us, especially if you're going to go into music school or whatever you're doing, to feel like you have a place.
That's beautiful. I have a wise friend who says that the gift of the gods to us human beings is enthusiasm, but our gift to our fellow humanity is encouragement. It's like the most important thing that we can do. And I'm just so pleased to be able to have that be part of my job description at the National Youth Orchestra, is encouraging the uniqueness and the individual voice of every single one of you who show up every summer. Even this summer, when we're needing to go virtual, I still have that same feeling that is really what I'm looking most forward to about this virtual set of activities. NYO, that's what that means for me.
Yeah, I have no doubt you'll accomplish that even from the internet.
Thank you. Your confidence and encouragement for me is important for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And now we're going to listen to a part of Cassie Pilgrim's very first concert as principal oboe of the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, which is Rossini's Overture La Scala di Seta, which has a rather huge oboe part, as you'll hear. Cassie sort of letting her presence be known in unmistakable terms. Cassie, thank you so much for joining us today. It's beautiful to see you again and hear you speak about the meaning of NYO in your life. And thank you for being such a wonderful musician and human being, as you were back then, as you are now, and as I know you'll continue to be.
Thank you, Jim. It's been such a pleasure.
And that was part of the Overture to La Scala di Seta as performed by the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra with their brand new principal oboist, Cassie Pilgrim. And now we're going to turn to another of our friends from National Youth Orchestra who's actually been around since the summer of 2013. I'm very, very happy to introduce Akshay Dinakar. Welcome, Akshay.
Thank you so much for having me, Maestro Ross.
You were around for enough summers to be able to, invest incredibly in the actual lifeblood of National Youth Orchestra. Many people come for 1 year, 1 summer or 2 summers. You are actually with us for 3 different summers, spread out over 4 different years. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've had the really unique privilege of experiencing not just 1 or 2, but I would say 3 different angles of the NYO experience, these different facades. I first entered the orchestra as one of the youngest 16-year-olds in the 2013 experience and had so much to learn in widening my cultural sphere. But since then, I've had a chance to dip my feet in the more arts administrator side as the creator of NYO-U, and more recently, in my later years in the orchestra, enjoyed it from more of the mentor as one of the older 19-year-olds in the orchestra, as well as this summer getting the chance to be an RA for the digital NYO experience.
Incredible. So I just should point out what NYO-U is that Akshay just mentioned. So besides all of his musical contributions, Akshay decided, I think maybe you can talk about this a little bit, that he wanted to create what's called a kind of university-like experience or a learning experience by NYO members for other NYO members. Do I have that right?
That's correct. Long story short, we like to think that NYO-U is musicians teaching other musicians. I think one of the most transformative experiences for me is when I originally joined NYO, I had never participated in a real orchestra experience before. I would say my cultural sphere for music was really small within Kansas. I was the only student of Indian American descent in my high school graduating class of 450. And so other than a few family trips to India, I never really had a chance to see the world or discover, I guess, musical sounds and cultures beyond just that of my home in the Midwest. And so when I had a chance to come to NYO, I think every NYO musician gets to experience this really beautiful moment, which is the first time the entire orchestra collectively makes a sound together on stage. And until that point in my life, I'd really only known what my sound, or I guess my Kansas sound was. But the moment where the entire orchestra and Maestro Ross raises his baton and everyone plays their first note together, that's the first time where a 16-year-old like I gets to hear the sound of an entire nation. And I think at the core, I really wanted to start NYO-U as a chance for every musician who goes through this experience to realize that NYO teaches us that we are a small part of a big world and a big part of a small world.
That's beautiful. I remember those moments, actually, like almost with every orchestra. Maybe I remember it best from the very first year where we just didn't know what it was going to sound like to pull together musicians from, somewhere between 35 up to 43 of the 50 states and have them suddenly make a sound together all at once. So that's a kind of dramatic moment. But really, the vital moment, it seems to me, is when we start to make music together and we listen to each other. And there's something about those listening skills that I think have kind of fueled you in a bunch of different directions, in and through music, but also beyond music. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about some of those efforts that you've made in the world of entrepreneurship and invention.
Sure. I would love to resonate with what you said about the NYO community. Not only is it present within the summer experience, but it really lasts not only physically on that campus that we all share together every summer, but it lasts with me for these 7 or 8 years that I've gotten the chance to be a part of everything. I think my favorite anecdote is after graduating, or after going through the NYO experience, I had a chance to go to Stanford for college where I majored in product design, which is really the entrepreneurship of mechanical engineering. And there was a point my 3rd year of college where there were actually 5 of us from NYO who were living in consecutive rooms in the same dorm. And so I think that's just a great manifestation of how the community carries on and has supported me in so many ways. You see these NYO musicians come out and grow up and go through college and enter fields, whether it's medicine or law or arts, or continue to bring their musical dreams to life in different ways. But it's a very collaborative community that's pushed me to think about how can I redefine myself and dance between the worlds of music and my background in engineering to create impact. And so really from a lot of the community and the ways that my connections from NYO have fueled me over the years has given me insight on certain types of problems that can be solved within the music and music education industry. So I've had a chance to work on a few different initiatives that were really important to me. I designed Staccato, which I think of as a music stand that sticks to walls, making it possible for anyone to practice at the height that's perfect for them. I've also had a chance to design everything from prosthetics to help musicians with limited mobility play a stringed instrument to 3D print like different kinds of electric violins. At the core, though, I think there's one value that NYO instilled in me, which is no matter where you are, if you are performing or you're creating something, you're creating an experience for an audience. And you have to exercise a lot of empathy to understand who that audience is and what can make a positive influence for them.
So there is this communicative quality to NYO that I think audiences have experienced over the entirety of NYO's existence. There's a certain kind of energy or a reaching out, and one unique feature I think of you is that you happen to be there both of the summers when one of our conductors, who was Valery Gergiev, who conducted the very first year, he came back and conducted 4 years later, and you were still in the group. So you may be among the only people who actually experienced 2 times of working with the same person. So I wonder how maybe that was different for you between those years. Had you changed? Had he changed? Or had NYO just changed so that it no longer was by any means a kind of repeat experience?
Yeah, if that was a multiple choice question, I would definitely check all of the above. But diving in a little bit further, NY 2013 was incredible for me because anytime someone asks me what it was the NYO experience like, was it you had a chance to perform everywhere? I think the way I best sum it up is it was my first chance to see what it's like to be a musical ambassador. And I think the NYO 2013 program especially really captured and manifested that idea of what does it mean to be a cultural ambassador between 2 different cultures of music, and understanding that the tour took place in Russia that year, and we played a beautiful program as a combination of Russian and American music. I don't think there is a person in the world more qualified than Maestro Gergiev to basically serve as the solar center for both of those different worlds and help us as a young growing orchestra embarking on a new mission together for the coming years to dance between those 2 different cultures and bring them all together. Fast forwarding several years, I had a chance to obviously in 2016 be a part of this incredible experience again, but this time in Europe with Maestro Gergiev, and part of that was the opportunity to perform at the Royal Concertgebouw, which I, as a self-proclaimed architecture nut and coming from my design background, was super intrigued by the acoustical design of this concert hall. There are so many different sources and folks that say that the Concertgebouw is one of the most acoustically perfect structures in the world. And I really wanted to put it through what I'd heard as the whisper test. So one of the first things I did when I got on stage there is I asked one of my friends to go to the very, very farthest back of the hall and stand behind one of the last seats in the entire auditorium and whisper to me. And I heard them whisper. And that's when I knew, wow, I cannot wait to see how Maestro Gergiev, in his deep understanding of how to take an orchestra and give them a sound that occupies a space in a new culture, how he might bring this auditorium to life later in the day for our actual concert. And being part of that experience, performing there at the Concertgebouw with Maestro Gergiev was one of the most unforgettable musical and cultural experiences of my entire life.
Incredible, yeah. So, and right now we are going to actually hear 2 excerpts from the very end of that Concertgebouw concert with Gergiev conducting and Akshi playing violin. So these are the 2 encore movements are Masks and Montagues and Capulets from Prokofiev's Romeo and Juliet. Enjoy. And Akshay, thank you very much.
Thank you.